Hello and welcome to the Blood Prince Council encounter as presented by Ruin of Nesingwary. I'm Negafawne and I'll be narrating this encounter to help anyone having issues with it. On the left with the purple diamond is Keleseth and he will be tanked by Ipecac the Warlock. In the middle with the triangle is Valinar and he will be tanked by Callista the Paladin. On the right with the circle on his head is Taldaram and he will be tanked by Mordecos the Death Knight. The gimmick of this fight is that only the empowered boss can be damaged. While all three bosses share a health bar, the two who aren't empowered will have 1 HP and be immortal until a different boss becomes empowered. Each boss has a main ability that they will use to do damage to the raid or the tank. Valinar has a shock vortex that deals physical damage. This is the boss that you will always be starting with. He's the one in the middle. It's like a void zone, but instead of doing damage while you stand in it, it does a base amount of damage and knocks nearby players back. This is why it is important that all range stay 15 yards away from each other. When Valinar is empowered, it becomes Empowered Shock Vortex. This is what my guild had the most problem with. We thought we had to be 30 yards away to avoid it completely, but instead, all melee DPS should simply run away a short distance. They should run far enough so that they get at least 12 yards away from other people and stand there and wait for it, as I do right now. As you can see, I'm clearly within 30 yards of Valinar when he casts it, but because I'm not near anyone, it doesn't matter. I don't do any damage to myself or anyone around me. Again, when he's not empowered, he will cast regular Vortex on a random raid member and they have to be ready to move out of it. Taladram's main ability is Conjure Flame. This creates a fireball that follows its target until it catches up and explodes. The longer you kite it, the smaller it gets, and the less damage that it does. Here we are running over to Taladram. This is the best place to Bloodlust because the DPS will not be moving that much. The only person who will really be moving is the person being pursued by the ball. When that Conjured Flame is empowered, it will fire magic flares that are dispellable. He will occasionally cast glittering sparks at a random person. Tankspot says that this is targeted to the tank only, but we found this to be false as he targeted random people and casted it. Just all you can do is heal through it as best you can. It does slow your movement speed a little bit, but we didn't have much problem with it during this encounter. Next, we're moving on to Keleseth. The tank for Keleseth must collect the dark nuclei that float around the room. The nuclei will latch on to whoever is closest and give them a buff that decreases shadow damage taken. This is required to survive Keleseth's Empowered Shadow Lance, which deals a huge amount of flat shadow damage. If a raid member is targeted with the nucleus, take it to the Keleseth tank so he can grab it. Make sure you're real close. He should be able to hit it a few times with whatever ability he chooses and get it to latch onto him. While the Dark Nucleus are channeling to the Keleseth tank, they will slowly kill themselves. So you need to be able to make sure he is always getting fresh nucleus because they will eventually die, but they will continuously respawn, usually in the back of the room. During all this, we have kinetic bombs that are floating around the room. These bombs, if they are allowed to hit the ground, will explode, so they need to be constantly bombarded by nearby hunters to make sure that they don't hit the ground. Each time you hit them, they will float up. So make sure that your hunters are positioned around the room so that they can be ready to juggle those bombs and make sure that they don't explode. Anyone can hit it and it will float upwards, but if you hit it too much and it floats too high up, it will aggro the boss in the room above you and he will wipe. So make sure that you don't float it through the ceiling. Other than that, everyone should just pay attention to which boss they need to DPS, what abilities it has, and what they need to do to avoid dying. Make sure everyone's in the right spot and paying attention, avoiding damage where they can, and helping out the tanks that need it. Right here, we're back on Taladram. The HP switch happens after a certain amount of time, so just get as much DPS in as you can. He's throwing more fireballs out. That one has targeted our Warlock tank. In this case, all we did was we popped healer cooldowns and made sure that he stayed at full because he can't kite it away. We found that if he moved too much, the nuclei would latch onto somebody else and he would lose his buff and he would die. So we made sure that not only he didn't move, but there was no one around him. As you can see, his healer in the corner is as far away as he can be without being near anyone else or out of range. Here, Mordekos has died. I figured it was going to be a wipe. I tried to save the raid by taunting and it didn't quite work out. So right here, Callista is actually tanking 2 of the bosses. This is not recommended because of the extra damage that he'll be tanking. We actually didn't have Callista move out of the empowered shock vortex. We had everyone else move away from him, and he normally didn't take damage from it, but the extra damage from that other tank was really hitting him hard, and we had to pull out all the stops to make sure he didn't die. We rezzed Mordekos, and things went back to normal. And we slowly regained our composure and continued to DPS the boss down. Now, they don't regenerate health. The health bar stays the same as it switches. You don't have to kill them all at the same time. They all share the same health bar. So as long as everyone knows exactly what they're doing, where they need to be, and what they need to be doing, this fight should be a breeze. Now, we're about to switch over to Tal'Daram, but before we do, Valinar is going to be again casting Empowered Shock Vortex. The health bar will switch in the middle of the cast, and he will continue to cast his Empowered Shock Vortex. So don't let your guard down. Just because the bars switch doesn't mean he's going to stop casting. Make sure you pay attention, and this should be an easy kill for you. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave any comments or questions in the video, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.